because this episode is all about seasonal rituals, the little practices that can help us reset in the fall. And here's the thing. These little rituals aren't just about coziness. They're really about resiliency. They're about how we signal to our nervous system, you can slow down, you can rest now. Today's episode is going to feel a little different. Instead of talking about the heavy stuff like grief, shame, resilience, we're going to talk about something that's just as important for our healing, growth, and self-care, but it's rituals. Specifically, my cozy fall rituals. Because this time of year always feels like kind of like a reset to me. I'm actually a summer lover. I love the hot weather, the longer days, and the greenness of the summertime. Winter for me can feel kind of long and heavy. And I have a pretty hard grief anniversary smack in the middle of it too. But fall feels like a pause, a chance to breathe, regroup, and ease into comfort and my Uggs. So consider this your invitation into my home, my kitchen, and my cozy routines as the leaves start to change and the air gets crisp. So grab yourself something warm and cozy to sip on. My favorite on a chilly fall evening is hot chocolate. And let's dive into a seasonal fall reset. You know how life throws us curveballs? Nobody gets through this journey of life without a few storms. Welcome to Transformative Journeys. I'm your host, Joanna LaRue. Each week, I'll share my thoughts and insights and dig into strategies that can empower you to rediscover yourself, learn about transforming pain into power, building confidence to navigate life's challenges, and cultivating a life of meaning and joy. Join me on this journey of exploration and transformation. Welcome back to Transformative Journeys. Still Joanna here. And today, instead of our usual conversations around heavier topics, I'm inviting you right into my living room or my kitchen, wherever you feel more comfortable. Picture yourself maybe curled up on the love seat across from me, hands wrapped around a warm mug of hot chocolate, a cozy blanket pulled up over your knees. Because this episode is all about seasonal rituals, the little practices that can help us reset in the fall. And here's the thing. These little rituals aren't just about coziness. They're really about resiliency. They're about how we signal to our nervous system, you can slow down, you can rest now. So let's talk about my fall reset and how you can start to create your own. One of my daughters is a total fall girl. She lives for sweater weather, cozy drinks, crunchy leaves. I, on the other hand, dread the coming of the colder weather and the shorter days that come with it in the fall. But the truth is, even I have to admit that there's something special about this season. Here in Canada, the leaves change, pumpkin spice, everything fills the air, and the atmosphere of life just, seems to exhale and give us a reminder that we're allowed to let out a long breath and settle in for a season of rest. October just has this feeling of being a little calmer, like a soft pause between summer chaos and holiday madness. The perfect time to think about a reset. Although having said that, here in Canada, Thanksgiving has just passed by the time this airs, which for many of us meant shopping and cooking a big meal for a bunch of people, and the ensuing heap of dirty dishes. Not so much rest there, I guess. And Halloween's coming up too, which was a big thing in our house when my kids were young. Costumes to be decided on and sometimes changed at the last minute. The classroom party, the rush home to eat dinner before putting costumes back on for an evening of going door to door, collecting trick-or-treats. For me, so many of those memories are bittersweet. Remembering back to when my kids were small brings me incredible joy, but it can bring back reminders of what I've lost too. But anyways, now I talk a lot about self-care because I think it is so important. Self-care isn't always bubble baths and journaling, although I love both of those. Sometimes it's incorporating something even simpler into your day. For me, self-care in the fall can look like walking through the crunchy leaves, letting the sound of them crunching and swishing as I walk through them become kind of a mindfulness practice. I love going for a solo drive, my favorite playlist or a good podcast or audiobook playing, maybe a Timmy's hot chocolate in the cup holder, either turning errands into therapy or just to drive around and take in the fall colors. I love watching the birds fattening themselves up at our bird feeder, or watching the crazy squirrels in our neighborhood scampering around hiding nuts and seeds where we both know they're never going to find them. And hey, I've got a cool fun fact trivia for you. I read once in some study that suggested that squirrels fail to recover something like 75%-ish of the hoards they bury, and they figure that those forgotten seeds have contributed to a decent amount of forest regeneration around the world. So those crazy squirrels that are scampering around in my yard are doing a lot of environmental good. Oh, and this is another kind of cool, fun trivia fact. Did you know we used to vie for the acorns with squirrels? Seriously, indigenous peoples used them as a staple food, and settlers and colonists even used to roast and grind acorns to use as a coffee substitute during hard times or when coffee beans weren't available. No caffeine, but apparently supposed to have been a palatable replacement for your morning coffee. So, sort of kind of the world's first decaf. Anyway, things like those tiny rituals can help calm my nervous system and tell it, hey, it's okay to slow down, take a breather. And as much as they're awesome when you can do it, we don't need a whole weekend getaway to reset, because here's the resilience piece. Even small, simple pauses that remind you to be present can give our minds and bodies a chance to reset from that fight or flight that we seem to run on almost constantly. So what's something else? Although I don't cook nearly as much as I used to, I'm just too busy to spend the time I actually do love in the kitchen. For me, fall also means comfort food. Not fancy or complicated food, just warm, cozy, soul-filling food. The kind that feels like a comfy blanket in my tummy. A few somewhat untraditional ones that come to the top of my head are pumpkin spice oatmeal. Super, super easy. Just add a heaping tablespoon or so of pumpkin puree, some cinnamon and nutmeg or allspice if you have it, and maple syrup to your usual oatmeal or porridge, whatever you call it. I grew up calling it porridge. Top with some chopped pecans and another little sprinkle of cinnamon. Oh my yum. Another one that's incredible with pork chops or pork roast, and I haven't made this one in quite a few years. It actually just came to mind as I was doing this, was fried apples and onions. It is so good. And it's super simple too. Saute some sliced onions, divide it into rings in butter and a pinch of salt. The pinch of salt, of course, helps them from like browning too quick, until they're softened and almost translucent. Add some sliced apples, with or without the skins, whichever you prefer. Add a few heaping tablespoons of brown sugar or maple syrup and a teaspoon, maybe less, of ground cinnamon, and just continue to saute them gently until the apple slices have softened and the onions are cooked all the way through. Trust me on this one, it sounds a little weird, but it is so totally yummy. Another one I really love, and I do this one or a version of this one at almost all of our family gatherings because one of my daughters loves squash. Maple roasted carrots or squash, and I usually do squash. You just lightly toss thickly sliced carrots or chunks of butternut squash in some olive oil, roast in a 400-degree oven until they're cooked through and kind of golden tinted. The amount of time really depends on how big the chunks are, but I would say safely 20 to 30 minutes maybe. When you take them out of the oven, drizzle with a bit of maple syrup, sprinkle with some chopped pecans, and I also like to sprinkle some chunks of soft chèvre cheese, the soft goat cheese, which helps to cut the sweetness of the veggies in this maple syrup too. And if you want your house to smell like you've been baking all day, this is an awesome little cheat. Just pop some cinnamon sticks, some lemon or orange peel into a pot of simmering water, and let it simmer away on the back of the stove. Instant seasonal smelling house, no toxic fumes. And these aren't just recipes for me. And the truth is they aren't actually recipes at all. They're literally things I've tossed together because something on a cooking show inspired me and they turned out so good I kept making them. Cooking like this feels almost like a soothing ritual to me. When I pick up the scent of cinnamon in my warm porridge, or sprinkle chopped pecans across a platter of maple scented veggies, it's like, an act of love for the people I'm feeding. And it reminds me that we all deserve warmth and pleasure along with our nourishment. Because here's the truth. Comfort food isn't just for your stomach. It's a sensory experience. It's food for your soul. And even if it's just you and a bowl of something warm and comforting at your kitchen table, it can help soothe emotions and create moments of grounding and connection without a trip to Ben & Jerry's. All right, now let's talk about a little bit of comfort and self-care for our outsides. Sometimes when fall comes around, we start to neglect our outsides a little. We're spending less time outside in the sun, if any time at all, but the harshness of the cold winter weather hasn't set in, so we're not really feeling, dry skin and itchy and all that yet. But that does not mean you should be letting good skincare fall by the wayside. See what I did there? Fall by the wayside. All right, it was lame, but my people will have caught that and be rolling their eyes out loud. Anyways, our skin can actually get kind of cranky in the autumn. Cold and windy one day, warm and sunny the next. And just like us, the older we get, the more temperamental our skin can be. Truth be told, I'm a pretty low maintenance, even lazy skincare routine person. I'm pretty good at maintaining a solid, healthy skincare routine in the mornings, cleanse, treat, moisturize, all that. But my evening routine would make those Instagram beauty influencers fall off their podiums and knock over their cameras. I don't do a 5-step skincare routine. I'm usually a cleanse, serum, teeth, bed. Not glamorous, but for me, realistic. And that's enough. Anyways, here's some of the things I don't skip. Spring, summer, fall, winter. First is exfoliating. Not every day, but at least a couple of times a week. It's super important, especially as we get older, because our skin cell turnover is a lot slower in our 30s, 40s, and 50s than it was in our 20s. It's really important to help our skin get rid of the dead surface cells, to help our skincare products absorb better. And I'll bet all you guys out there, I bet you're loving this episode. But the truth is that guys should be taking care of their skin too. The second thing I don't skip, just because the days are shorter and the sun's behind the clouds more at this time of year, does not mean you can skip facial sunscreen. It doesn't take a lot of exposure to damage our skin. Just make sure you find a good one specific for faces that doesn't contain chemicals that get absorbed into your skin. Grab a mineral one that blocks from the surface, something with zinc oxide or titanium oxide in it. And last but not least, hydration. From the inside out, drink your water. It's important all year round because your skin needs it all year round. And here's a tiny ritual you can add just because. After a really shitty day, try laying down with a warm, damp face cloth lying across your face. Seriously, it's like a little mini spa moment that lets your body and your nervous system go, I am cared for. Little things like that are what resiliency looks like sometimes. When you don't have time for a long soak in a hot bubble bath or the cash to go have a pedicure or a massage, just tiny practices that calm our minds and bodies and remind us that we are worth loving and looking after. All right. So Thanksgiving's over. The dishes are done, thank God. Here in Canada anyways, but if there's anyone south of my border listening, you've still got the big day coming. I've been told that the Thanksgiving feast down in the US is a bigger thing than Christmas dinner here in Canada. So if you've still got the big day coming, or if you're in Canada and Christmas is the next one around the corner, I just want to give you a gentle reminder. You don't need to deep clean your whole house to welcome company. For one thing, most of the people who come to feast with me are there for the food, not to wipe their fingers across the surface to check whether I dusted. Just saying. And if I ever caught them doing that, they'd be tossed out on their ass anyways. So having said that, I do want my house to be moderately clean, so I'm going to share a few tricks I have up my sleeve. So the week leading up to the big meal, I do a 10-minute tidy in one room each evening. 15 minutes max, because if it takes longer than 15 minutes, it's not tidying, it's cleaning. And that's the activity we're trying to reduce here. Focus on visible surfaces. They really are the only thing people will see or notice. If they're sneaking around your house, snooping in cupboards and rooms with the door closed, again, they leave hungry and early. Wiping down the front door and entry mirror, or that window in your door or beside your front door, if you have one, is weirdly satisfying. And first impressions and all that, right? Let's stop stressing about rooms nobody will be in. If you have a powder room, deep clean that and do a quick clean in your big bathroom if you want, just in case. But the likelihood anyone will use it is pretty slim. They definitely won't be using your shower if they're at your house for dinner. And I'll say it again, if they're snooping to look at how clean your shower is, show them the door or give them some work to do. Set them to washing dishes, stirring gravy, hand them a rake and tell them they don't eat until the leaves are raked up. Just kidding. But the truth is, people aren't coming to see if you cleaned your house. They're coming for some love, some connection, and to share a meal with you. Yes, we vacuum the cat hair off the furniture and the floors. Yes, I make sure the bathroom isn't a sty. I'll even clean the smudges off my fridge if I think about it. But part of my resiliency toolkit includes trying really hard to let go of perfection and not sweat that small stuff. And really, our guests don't need perfection. They need us. So, before we wrap up, if you have a notebook or paper handy, I want to invite you, as always, to pause for just a moment and take these questions with you, maybe on your next walk. As always, be kind and gentle with yourself as you think about these. What's one small seasonal ritual that I could create or go back to that helps me feel more grounded, calm, or cared for? What would it look like to offer myself just a little more comfort without the guilt? And remember, your thoughts or answers aren't about self-improvement. They're about self-care. So as we wrap up today, here's what I'd like you to carry with you. As the season turns to its time of rest, so too should we. Let go of the rush or of staying busy just so you can look productive. Take that walk. Make a pot of soup. Pull out your favorite hoodie or sweater. And let yourself take a pause and breathe. Remind yourself by the cozy little rituals that you don't need to earn your rest. Sometimes resilience looks like courage when you're struggling, but sometimes it just looks like a warm mug of hot chocolate, a fuzzy sweater, and the leaves crunching under your feet. Thanks for hanging out with me for this little fall reset. If this episode gave you some ideas, some thoughts of how you can give yourself a little self-care, or simply made you feel a little bit more calm, share it with someone who could use the same. If you'd like more tools and strategies for resilience and self-care, you can always grab my free resources at transformativejourneys.ca. And you can also find me on Instagram at transformativejourneys.joanna. Oh, and your support helps me keep creating free tools and honest conversation, because no matter how much you love what you're doing, sometimes it takes a whole lot of metaphorical duct tape to hold it all together. So if you'd like to toss a little love into the duct tape fund, you can support the podcast now at buymeacoffee.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. And lastly, you know that hitting that subscribe button and tapping the little bell or like or whatever it is on your platform helps my show get noticed, right? So I'll make you a deal. You tap it, and I will keep dropping the best of what's in my heart and soul so that we can keep learning together. Until next week, this is Joanna reminding you that it doesn't matter if you fall. What matters is how well you bounce. This is Transformative Journeys. See you next time. Just wanted to throw in a disclaimer. This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not replace the advice of a medical or mental health expert. I'm not a licensed counselor or a therapist, just a human with a mic and a story of growth and resilience. No degree, no fancy letters after my name. I'm a full-time student at the School of Hard Knocks, University of Life, where I figure I'll graduate when I take my last breath. In other words, I'm just Joanna, a fellow human being on my journey through this thing called life, and your concierge on this transformative journey.